late 18th, early 19th century, another layer was added. There is a group of people, we'll call them Negroids. Now, Negroids have two problems. Not only do they have to live up to the standards of Mongoloids, they must also live up to the standards of Caucasoids. Not only are they going to get judged by Mongoloids, they're also going to get judged by Caucasoids. So when you ask about how can people get along, they can't. When you ask about freedom, what freedom? You're a prisoner to your culture. You're a prisoner to your skin color. You're a prisoner by the categories that are created without your consent. You're a prisoner to words and meaning not of your own creation. You're a prisoner to a history that you never were a part of, and yet you have inherited it. Our good friend is only 17 or 18. The 1940s, 50s, and 60s, it's long ways away. They live in the past. For the past 17 years, our good friend there has been having a good time riding his bicycle, hanging out with his friends, watching movies, playing video games. And all of a sudden, in a class, he reads a book. And the book reminds him that he is Vietnamese. For the past 17 years, he didn't really care. He's just having a good time with life, like the rest of us. But the book reminds him of his origins. The book burdens him. And the book takes him all the way back to the Vietnam War. The only thing he knows about wars is watching the Rambo movies. John Rambo. What it means to be in a war, what it means to be a killing machine, what it means to do all sorts of awful things to human beings and cultures. And as a movie, it's fun to watch. But he reads the book, and the book screams at him, "You're Vietnamese." And he says, "I was born in America. You're Vietnamese. I was born in America. You're Vietnamese." And little by little, he says, "I'm Vietnamese." And you know what happens when you say you're Vietnamese? You say, "I inherit that culture. I am that culture. Those are my people." He's never been there. Maybe he doesn't even speak the language. Maybe he doesn't even like the food. But all of a sudden, because of this powerful piece of advertisement, a book, he no longer considers himself an American, but a Vietnamese. What you need to understand before we go any further is that people up here, ما بدین ره نپی حشمت و جاه آمده ایم از بد حادثه اینجا به پناه آمده ایم. I didn't ask to be born as a Persian. I just came out Persian. None of us choose what culture and what time in history we want to be born. It's like life creates us and just dumps us in Oakland, or in Montclair, in Sacramento, or in Mexico, or in Vietnam, or in China, or in Africa, some part. We are a prisoner to time. So when we talk about this, should you walk out of the class and run into a caucasoid, an accident of nature? The other thing you need to understand before you start blaming other people for who and what they are and their position, no one examines who they are. No one examines what they are. No one examines what they believe in or why they believe in the things that they believe in. Remember the movie The Matrix? When Morpheus holds up at this Duracell battery, what does he say? Human beings are no longer born. They are grown. If you want to know what it means to grow something, to be grown, go to Home Depot, buy a tiny little plant, and help it grow. And you know what you'll do? You'll grab a pair of scissors and you will chop away the weeds. You will trim it the way you want to. You would give it the curve that you want to. You will make it grow. And whatever is organic about this plant will be destroyed by your hands. We are all prisoners to our environment. Watch the movie American History X. Okay? You really, really need to go into this mode of educating yourself to be able to examine. Once you examine, you have to carry the burden of the history that lives inside you, the burden of overcoming the history, and then living with the ignorance of people around you. That you are white. You belong to this white brotherhood. You got caught. You were sent to prison. You were baptized by fire. You come out. You're a man of all people now. Your best friend in prison was a black man. You come out. And you know that there are no longer any differences between white, black, brown, blue, yellow. But other people who see you, they see you as white. And they categorize you as white. And they judge you as white. And they fail to realize that yes, you're white on the outside, but rainbow on the inside. So remember, go back to that story I shared with you some months ago about No Exit, written by Jean-Paul Sartre. We are enslaved, troubled, burdened by the judgment of other people. A few years ago, and by a few years ago, I mean like 30, 35 years ago, I came to Berkeley. There is this sandwich shop. It's called Bongo Burger, Persian burger. And I had gone to Safeway on Shattuck. And there were this group of black kids with a basketball. They just went in there. And I saw them paying for their food and they didn't come out. And then this manager comes out and says, I want to look into your bag. And the kid says, for what? I want to see if you've stolen anything. No, I paid for all the things you see in my hand. Here's the receipt. I want to see what's in your bag. The young black kid has inherited a history he had no hands in creating. The white manager is a prisoner to a history that he himself hasn't created. And yet we're all prisoners to a system we know so little about. Right? Now, if as a Caucasoid you're civilized and you're worth $100, and if as a Mongoloid you're not civilized but barbarian, and like a dog, the only way that anyone can tame you is for a Caucasoid to look down, show an act of compassion, create Laney College and say, I'm going to tell you what American history is all about. And if you live in Texas, there is no black story, there is no red story, there is no brown story, it's just white story. Now, if you happen to belong to this category, Negroids, not only do you get your value from the barbarians, Mongoloids, you also get your value by the dominant culture, the Caucasoids. How much are you worth? $1. You're certainly not civilized, and you're not a barbarian. The dominant culture has given you, it's called savage. You know, when 9/11 happened, I walked into my class. It happened like around 7:38 in the morning, and I was in my office, and the secretary just walks into my room and says, "We have been attacked. We have been attacked." So, okay, attacked by who? What? And so I turn on the TV or something, and the Twin Towers are gone. And so when I walk into my classroom, students that I've been talking with for a few weeks, they look at me and say, "What are you doing here? Why don't you go back home? Do you know where Osama bin Laden lives?" What happens to my value as a professor, as an instructor? Who decides and determines my value? 18-year-old kids. And I'm not dealing with one or two or three. 60 students in a classroom look at me and they say, "What are you doing here? This is not your country." Okay? As a barbarian, you really don't think very highly of yourself. And as a savage, you have almost zero value. Welfare is not created for Caucasoids. Redlining, when it comes to housing, it's not created for Caucasoids. It's created for these two categories of people, but specifically for this. Now, of course, sociologists now and anthropologists now say, no, this no longer exists. It's an outdated way of looking at life, at people, at cultures. Turn on the TV. Think about racism. Think about bigotry. Think about poverty and where it exists. And you realize, yes, scholars can come on TV, go on podiums and say, dismiss this charting of people. It's outdated, it's primitive. We are a place where we say all people are one and the same. Really? Now, what does that mean? It means the following. If you're running this track and this is the start line and this is the finish line, a Caucasoid stands here. A Mongoloid stands here. And a Negroid stands here. The Caucasoid says equal opportunity, freedom, rights. I am here because of my own effort. Why don't you make effort? Why are you so goddamn lazy? You can be where I am. It's like Mozart coming to you, seeing you playing the piano, and after 5 years telling you, you suck. Discipline yourself. You just say, listen, man, when you were born, you were given a talent, a head start of 1,000 light years. How could I ever compete with you? When you were born, you were considered civilized. You had nothing to prove to anybody except to God. Me. Not only do I have to prove myself to you, but also to God. All in one lifetime. How many beatings can you take before you say, the system is flawed, it doesn't work for me? And what do? You lie. You cheat. You steal. Did you know that Donald Trump, I'm not quite sure what year exactly, but he only paid $720 in taxes? How is that possible? Talk to your mom. Ask her how much tax she paid. How could someone who makes millions pay only $720? And how could you behave like a Jesus? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. There comes a point you say, screw Jesus, I am going to be like a Moses, an eye for an eye. Now, what does this mean for us? The 5, 10, 15, 20 people in this classroom. What does it mean for us? It means the following. And take this very, very seriously, and I'm speaking from an immigrant perspective. Okay? And remember, if you're not civilized, you are an immigrant. You are homeless. You're always trying to prove yourself to the dominant culture. And it matters very little if you live in America, born in America, raised in America, seasoned by America. That means nothing. What this means is the following. If you're a 2-year-old brown boy. Okay? When you walk in Piedmont, you are a potential terrorist. I am only 2 years old. If you are Asian walking in Piedmont at the age of 2, they're going to say, you're the next Bruce Lee. If you're Mexican and you're walking Piedmont and you're 2, they will look at you and say, I will wait till he's 15 so he can come and mow my lawn. The point is, before you're able to walk, the dominant culture will put you in a category. You know, when I started working at Laney in 2004, I had a lot of athletes in my classes. Entitled, privileged, didn't much care about their home life. But they came to class saying, I'm a football player, and I'm really good. I'm going to get picked by San Francisco Niners. If I take your class, you're going to pass me. I don't have to be here. I don't have to do work. You will pass me. I tried to be understanding, and there came a point I failed all of them. Now when I get an athlete in my class, my mind travels all the way back to 2004, and I'm going to immediately, without having known the person, who he is, what he is, how devoted he is to educating his mind, I'm going to put him in a category. Entitled, privileged, lazy. He's not going to do work. And yet, he demands the best grade. The point I'm trying to make is, all of us in this class have been put in a stereotypical category. You don't have any power to fix that. See, one of the problems that society today has about LGBTQ and all the other numbers that come after it, okay? We have no idea what category we should put them in. So when homosexuality was first introduced, we say, oh, well, there is a mental disability there. Maybe they can put them in like a rehab center of sorts and they can figure out who and what they are. And now when a man wants to be a woman or a woman wants to be a man, they come on TV and they get harassed and this and that. Why? The stereotype is there and it's real. So what do you need to do? If I am from the Middle East, I can't act like a buffoon. People already see me as a barbarian. I don't need to feed into that stereotype. I can't change him. The only thing I can do is if I behave differently, speak differently, maybe if I'm lucky, he'll change the way he looks at me. Yeah.
Like I've talked about this earlier.
We have.
Yeah, but I really, like, for me, I don't know why you feel that you need to change part of this argument. Like, you know that, like you said, with athletes, you're not going to, it doesn't matter what, you don't even care about the person's mindset. You're already going to put them in a section of the title and all these other things.
Yes.
So, why should that athlete
change?
change?
Because he needs 3 units.
Yeah,
because he needs an A, because he needs to graduate and go to Berkeley or San Francisco State University. Without this class, he will stay at Laney for the next 5 years. He'll no longer be 18. He'll be 25. He'll have less energy. He'll be less devoted. His plate will be more full. You need a job eventually. Maybe you like wearing your pants down here. Maybe you can go to the interview with your pants down here. You will not get a job, especially if your job is going to pay you $150,000. You better shower, man. You better wear good clothes. You better speak right English. Now, you may not like doing any of that stuff. But if your mortgage depends on getting that job, you will do as they demand. Now look, I don't disagree with you. You want to walk around and do whatever you want, do that. But you belong to society. Whether you want to or not. Look, your mom loves you. Loves you enough to spend money on you, to take you all the way to Los Angeles. But she has certain demands. Go to school. Clean your room. You may not want to do those things. But if you want to live under her roof, you will do as she says. Society is no different. Try it. Go home drunk one day. Go home really, really high one day and see how your mom will react. Go home with your transcript where you have 5 Fs. She'll kick you out. What, you think society is any different? The trick is the following. Graduate. Make sure you think well. That's your money, being able to think well. Choose the right profession. Choose the right friends. Choose the right companion. Have the right kids. Teach them the right things. Now you have a cult that you can be very happy about. You want to go live in a black neighborhood? Fine. You want to go live in a brown neighborhood? Fine. A white neighborhood? Fine. To be able to survive, you need power, man. And by power, I don't mean be a, what's his name? Be a Mike Tyson. Just have a lot of power, but act stupid. You need power in the way how you need to behave in somewhat environment. It's important for you to recognize where you are. Because you need to behave differently in different environments. And that requires insights and awareness and mindfulness. Listen, today's class is done. Leave this stuff here. This is for you to only become aware of what has lived before us. What people have been thinking about race, about gender, about groupings, about various categories of people, about definition, about meaning, about value. None of us in this class, or when you go outside, are the creators of any of this. They are dumped on your shoulders. Don't walk around being angry for your position in life. Find a way you can get power and then fix your own little space. Okay? Don't be mean-spirited. Yeah, Deontay. You have any questions? Yeah.
No questions.
Comments?
None, right?
Yeah. Have a nice weekend, people. Thank you.